Hi everyone, this is Tash again. This is my next instalment in my series of videos on how I set up my study planners and their evolution. So take from it what you think is suitable for you. There's no really right way of doing it. And it seems that it depends what the lecturer wants to give to you at the time, because each semester it seems to be that it's a different study style and whatever their expectations are. This follows my video on the Erin Condren Life Planner, as you can see there. Just ignore the textbooks to the left. I've just got them in the mail today and I quickly covered them with a clear contact. Word to the wise, good way to protect your textbooks is cover them with clear contact as soon as you get them, so that they don't tear and fall to pieces when you're throwing them into your bags when going to uni and all that sort of stuff. Now, the next planner I went to was the Sheep Sparrow Sidekick that I remember now. I looked that up. I couldn't remember the name of it in my first video. This is in the personal size. I prefer this. This is actually my favourite Sheep Sparrow out of the collection, because it's, even though it's still pretty sturdy, because as you can see the leather in its layers is really thick, and it holds its integrity and protects the inserts really well. It's a really soft leather and really pliable and malleable. The other Sheep Sparrow leathers are very, very tough and I want to say cardboard, but that's not really the right way of saying it. It's just a different type of leather, almost like bulletproof leather, but I prefer the softer planners, and it's got nothing to do with quality, it's just purely a taste thing. Inside here, these are Onika Hanby inserts that Carrie Harling had recommended. Really expensive to get overseas because the postage is just ridiculous on these. $14 Australian postage. I think actually $20 Australian was $14 American or something like that. But in any event, I got a few of these. You can get these for the traveller's notebook style, and you can get ring-bound ones. I think I've got one in one of my ring-bound planners that I'll show. I would have got, there are some local suppliers, but they're not as good in the quality as Onika Hanby's, and I've had these for a while and given them a fair thrashing, and they're very good. Now, going to, I think it's July was my next style of inserts. These are the vCarie in the DIYFish. You have on here a monthly spread. I didn't use that because I would use the other version in my regular planner and put everything in there. I only want to use one. I know that Carrie uses at least two because of the workload and the data she's got to put in there, but I prefer just to use the one because I need to see everything in the one place, otherwise I get lost. So I wouldn't use this page, but on the other page I would use these. Now you've got your projects listed there, and I would put, sometimes if I had events that might conflict with my study, I'd put them in that section there, and here it splits into the weeks, which is very helpful. And I would also include my study week numbers so that I could actually keep track of where I was at. And then I would split these pages. These are actually blank pages, and then I would rule a line in the middle so I could split them into my subjects. So this one here is from memory torts B, and that is contracts A. Yeah, so I would split what I would have to do in relation to my weekly tasks for my study and write them down here, which is a bit of a duplication to my Evernote setup that I'll show. And I'm trying to carefully show you what's on the computer and not what's behind the computer, because I've got a big mess on the table. So I will show my Evernote setup on my study in a separate video. This actually doesn't correlate to the planner I'm showing you now, because this is my equity and trusts that I've just finished and had an exam on. So I'll show that in a separate video, but I would split everything in on my Evernote, and then I would duplicate that on here, and that frustrated me and was taking up a lot of time, which is why I stopped doing it in the end. but it really depends on what your workload is and what you need to put in. SG is just a study guide. Our lecturer would actually give us a study guide that we would read on top of our textbook. That's what TB is. And I've got slides for the lecture slides. So they would want us to read the slides first before the lecture. And of course, I wanted to tick that I'd gone to the lecture and the tutorial and that I'd done my tutorial questions. And that is a summary, as in I would type up a weekly summary on the key things I needed to learn in preparation for my exam. And this in purple is just my notes on my assignment, I think, that I had to do from that. I'm trying to squeeze my memory. I'm just going to enliven my screen. And that really is that. You can split that up, I suppose, as you want. You could do it in 4, I guess, if you had 4 subjects. This is good as you've got a weekly planner that tells you what you needed to do during the week. The Erin Condren one, I had to split them up to daily tasks, which can work or not work. It really depends how you want to set it up. Sometimes I wouldn't get them done if I'd set them up on a Monday night, and then I might get myself overwhelmed or confused if I try to do it another night, whereas you've got the flexibility here, just as long as it gets done that week, and you can see what your workload is for the week in relation to the subjects that you've got there. So that's helpful. Then I moved, I think that was the key that I used at the time. I'll keep changing my colours. I don't know what the heck I want to do. I keep changing my mind. I think I used in the other section of my planner, this was the other version, so that was one of the printouts from DIYFish, and I think I used, I was trying to cover that because I've got some work stuff on there that's confidential. I used this insert, but I only used that for a very short period of time because it just wasn't structured enough for me. I need a schedule section as well as a task section, and I was just mucking around with different ways to do my tasks and how to set everything up. And unfortunately, it's easy to try and picture how you want to use your inserts when you're imagining things looking at them on Etsy, but it's not until you buy them and then actually start using them can you work out whether you whether they are usable or not. So I stopped using that one because it just didn't suit me very much. Then I moved on to Ring Planner, and this was the version 2.2. So what I would do is I would have my monthly spread there, and I've gone back to 2.2, but this is what I've used at the end of last year. So that was my monthly for everything. So I went from having a separate study planner to having everything in one. So I had my daily printouts, but I don't know where I've put those. But I've got my weeklies on the 2.2. So I would have on this side events. So this is L lecture, T tutorial. So my classes and other significant events, and obviously my meal plan. And then this part of that fold out is where I would sort out my study. So what I would usually put in my vCarie, I put in here, so on the quick, so you wouldn't see this part when you have your daily printouts, but I would have a quick view here that of basic stuff that I needed to do. So SG was the study guide, TB is the textbook, and the LN was legislation, I think, and then I put CL as case law, so just some quick reference things to read, and then of course I would expand on what it was that I actually needed to read in here or do. And then, sorry, get that all in one screen. Trying to find something a little bit fuller. So here, I get a view of what I'd actually need to do, and I found that I was duplicating a lot with this a lot. It was good to write it down, so therefore I'd get it through my thick skull what I'd actually needed to do. However, I was spending a lot of time writing this up, and I'm only duplicating what's already on Evernote. And I found that when I thought if I wrote this out on my diary, then if I was out and about, then I could just quickly refer to the diary and do it. But if you think about it, if you're looking at all of that stuff that I had to do, it's a hell of a lot to carry around, and I would be doing this stuff at my desk, so I may as well refer to what's on Evernote anyway. So I only did this for a period of time, and it was just served as a reminder on how much I hadn't done. I think I was using, at that time, version 2.2 on 2 pages. I think this was an accidental purchase. I meant to actually get on 1 page. I actually need my schedule so I can work out what I need to do. Even though I've got my schedule on my phone, I like to be able to work out, okay, I'm doing this here, this there, and I've got a gap here to do study and try and squeeze something in, and then I've just got all of my tasks there. I'm trying to go back to version 2.2 and work that out. I've gone through another couple of DIYFish guises after this, which I'll show in a separate video to show why I've gone back to 2.2. So that is it in relation to late last year. My next video, I'll show you what I've done this year so far.